What? What's up guys, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my art channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. As you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm going to be talking about my first Comic-Con experience, vending. What I mean by that is my first Comic-Con experience being in the artist alley, selling my own artwork. You guys know that last year around this time I posted my first Comic-Con haul. It was the first time I'd ever attended a Comic-Con, and this year I actually attended that same Comic-Con only as a vendor. So I'm just going to be kind of talking to you guys about my preparation experience and just some tips and advice that I learned from preparing for this convention and actually selling at this convention, and just some advice. That's pretty much it. So let's just get into it. The preparation. There's a lot of preparation that goes into a Comic-Con, especially if you are doing a bigger convention or if you're making art specifically for that convention. So this will vary a little bit depending on you and depending on your particular convention. But for me, I bought my booth for this convention back in May, so that's 4 months in advance. And then around July is when I really started preparing for the actual convention itself. I already knew that I was pretty much going to be using just the art that I had. That was because I didn't know how much I would really be able to make new art in order to buy prints. So I just kind of took it easy on myself and said, you know what, we're just gonna kind of go with the art that you had. And luckily, because I've never done a convention before, I had like a lot of art. You guys know I post new art every single week, so I had a lot of art to sell at this convention and a lot of art that I could make prints of and all of that. So I kind of already knew the body of work that I was gonna have, so to speak. And I knew that prints were going to be my biggest expense, and they definitely were. They were the most expensive thing that I had to buy, but I actually still have a lot of them left after the convention. The next most expensive item that I had to purchase was the booth itself. The booth itself was $150 for a 3-day convention. That may seem kind of steep for like a first convention, but I chose this convention in particular because I already had experience attending it. So I kind of already knew the audience that was going to be there, and I kind of already just had a feel for the venue and the kind of convention that it was. And I think that that can be a really valuable asset going into the convention, especially if you're not an experienced vendor, because at least I was an experienced attendee. So I had some experience, I suppose. The next most expensive thing that I had to purchase after my booth was my backdrop. My backdrop was $100, and it was actually a birthday gift because during July I celebrated my 22nd birthday, and my parents actually gifted that to me for that. So that was nice because I saved that money. That's not going to be all the time. But the backdrop is a really good investment if you are just into photography or videography in general. So I think that that can be really important. Plus now I can use it for future conventions and I don't ever really have to purchase it again. It's just kind of nice to have, and it can make your booth kind of stand out, especially because my booth was red, the backdrop of it. I'll do like a clip of my booth as well so that you guys can see it. But my booth is red, and having the black backdrop kind of made it stand out and just look different. So I think that helped me out a little bit as far as just kind of like standing out and catching people's attention. The next most expensive thing that I had to purchase was my print rack, which I got on Amazon, and that was, I believe, $40. I saw Holly Brown purchase something like this, or at least, I don't know if it was the exact one, but it was one that was very similar. And that was a really nice way to make my booth setup go vertical. And the reason that that's important is because it makes your booth level more eye level. Does that make sense? It makes your booth more eye level. When it has something vertical up on the table, people are going to be able to see it from across the room. And that's really important because if everything is flat out on your table, nobody knows what you're selling unless they're right in front of your table. If you make it go vertical, people can see from a little bit farther away, and that may lure them into your booth and kind of entice them into seeing what else you have. And I think that that definitely was the case, because when I had this print rack, people kind of like walk by my booth, see the print rack, and then like come back and be like, oh, hey, like, what's up? Like, what are you selling? So I definitely think that that did help me a lot. And having the backdrop just kind of added like a lot of color and visual interest. So I definitely think I'll be doing a similar setup in the future. That's not to say that having stuff horizontal out on your table isn't important, because it is. People like to feel like they can kind of touch things and get really up close and look at them and kind of interact with it. So flat out on my booth, I had my original portfolio with all my original artwork in it, and people loved to kind of flip through that and ask me questions about it. But having the vertical prints was a really nice way just to lure people in. So consider that when you're buying things for your booth setup. And I think the next most expensive thing down from that was really like just inexpensive things. Like I had a little jewelry display which kind of spun around, and on that I had bottle cap jewelry just for people to kind of look at. People kind of thought that was cool. I had my buttons, and then I had my button menus, which were just basically printed off designs of like all my buttons in like a format that people could kind of just see all the buttons that I had really easily. And I bought the little plastic frames for those at the dollar store. So I bought a lot of my table decorations at the dollar store, actually. I even got my tablecloth there. So definitely recommend hitting up your local dollar store for those things. I got like some fake flowers, a fake flower vase, free candy. People love free candy. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention my business cards and my banner, because that was probably slightly more expensive than the print rack, but definitely not as expensive as my backdrop. I got those from Vistaprint. I ordered 3 different business card designs, and the reason that I did that was because I like to have just something different, and I think people really liked that too, because instead of taking 1 business card, they would maybe take 2 or 3, which is totally fine because they're not that expensive like individually. And it made me a little bit more memorable because I had 3 different business cards, so people could kind of like pick the one that they liked the best, or pick one and give another one to a friend. And that's marketing, baby. Like that is just like, it's just more memorable. Maybe people will be more likely to hold on to it, or, you know, actually look at the back of it and follow you on your social media that's on there. I just made sure to list my art email and all of my social media on the back of my business cards, and my picture, which is just like the icons. People know, like, oh yeah, that girl, so that they could kind of remember who I was specifically. So yeah, and then my banner I also got from Vistaprint, and you guys saw that in my convention prep vlog. You saw like a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about in that vlog. So if you haven't seen that yet, you can go watch another 20-something minute video if you would like. But that just, the banner was nice because I think it gave me a more professional feel. Going into this convention, having it being my first time ever selling at an artist alley was a little bit intimidating. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was doing, but I feel like making sure that my setup looked really good and really professional kind of gave the look that I did know what I was doing, even though I didn't. And the banner just looked nice, and I think it was very eye-catching because it had my face and my name, and it had, I believe, YouTuber, traditional artist, comic book nerd on it, and then all these social media icons, and then at the bottom it just had like some of my doodles, basically, some of my drawings. So I just think it like kind of looked cool. It also kind of mirrors my YouTube banner, so I think that that's kind of nice, just some consistency. So that, I believe, is it for the preparation. Purchased the booth back in May, spent most of July setting up. I pretty much just told myself that I would buy something every single paycheck. Every time I got a paycheck, which was every 2 weeks, I would buy something for the convention. That's just kind of how I spaced it out, and that's just kind of how it made sense for me so that I wasn't spending so much money all at once. Also, I want to mention the printer that I used. I used mpix.com. I don't know if I would really recommend them. They're not bad by any means, they're fine. I just think the quality and the price is something where you you can get better quality prints for less money. So I'm gonna kind of shop around with that a little bit. I'm gonna be trying catprint.com next, which is also recommended by Holly Brown, and she says they're really great. So that's what I'm gonna try next. Now I'm gonna kind of go into a couple of the tips that I found for kind of surviving the convention and kind of like knowing what to expect once you're there. So like I mentioned, I attended the same convention last year just as a guest or a fan, like just as a regular convention goer. And what I did was that while I was binge shopping for prints, because I bought so many prints last year, I was getting business cards from all these different artists, and I was kind of networking with them, and I would go home and I would follow all of them on all their social media, and because I wanted to kind of keep up with what they were doing, and they were artists that I really liked. And so when it came time for me to actually attend this convention as a vendor, one of the things that I did was I actually reached out to a couple of those artists because I knew they were familiar with not only conventions, but the specific convention that I was going to. So I kind of just reached out to them via email or one of their social media accounts and said like, hey, what's up? I met you last year at this convention. I'm actually going to be at that convention this year as a vendor. Do you have some advice? That simple. And they basically just kind of told me what to expect as far as like when to get there, like what happens when you leave the convention and you leave all your stuff there, just stuff like that, like just to kind of give me some peace of mind going into it. And just like they helped me a lot with like pricing my stuff, selling fan art, all of that kind of stuff, which is just really helpful. So if you can find somebody like that, that's awesome. Definitely do that. If not, settling for somebody who has done any sort of convention or vended at sort of any event would also be helpful, or just any like artist who sells their work in general. They could probably offer you some pretty good advice, but I think the best advice that you can get is from an actual artist who vended at your convention, because that is like priceless. One of the other things that I have to say is that it's really important to make friends with the people who are next to you at the convention, like at the booths next to you, because I did this convention completely by myself. I set up by myself, I was there all weekend by myself, and one of the biggest concerns that I had was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like get up and go to the bathroom at some point in these 72 hours, like what do I do? And what was awesome was that the girls in the booths next to me, Tina and Suzette, they were awesome. They were so sweet. I'm so happy that I met them. They were like, hey, no problem, we'll watch your booth for you, like it's no big deal. And so I had a lot of comfort in that because it was like a very friendly environment. And I think one of the other things that I want to mention is that my location in the Artist Alley, I think definitely played to my advantage. That's just kind of blind luck, but I think that also goes into why you should buy your booth as early as possible, because then you'll get the better spots. You don't really want to have your booth like way in the corner in the back where nobody knows you're there. So that's why it's important to buy your booth early, because my booth was directly across from somebody who was selling t-shirts. He was selling like these really cool t-shirts. I actually got one. And then it was like diagonally across from these two people that were selling like figures and collectibles. And if you know anything about Comic Cons, like those are like pretty popular booths. They were bigger booths as well, so I think they were attracting a lot of traffic. And like while those booths would be busy and kind of get backed up, that extra traffic would kind of like come to my booth and the booths next to me. So, but that's just kind of like luck. Like I think that was part of the reason why I did well at this convention, was because of my location. So I definitely recommend buying your booth early if you can. So yeah, making friends with the people at the booths next to you, just so they can like help you out if you're in a pinch. I think that that's really important. And also just don't be afraid to reach out to other artists. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that they won't respond or say like, no, I don't really have any advice for you. And that's fine. I mean, just like, it's just one way that you can kind of prepare yourself for what you're about to go into, especially me, because I had no idea, guys. I had no idea what I was doing. And now, after the fact, I feel a lot more confident going into future conventions just because of everything that I learned and all the people that kind of helped me with this convention. One of the other pieces of advice that I have for you guys, and this one is like big, okay? This is like huge as far as like being a vendor goes. And I learned this actually from a younger age, and I want to talk about this really quick because I feel like this kind of changes my experience of my first convention a little bit. But when I was little, when I was like 8 years old, I was in this thing back in my hometown called the Youth Spanish Market. Basically, like me and all my cousins would paint retablos, which are paintings of Catholic saints, and we would sell them to tourists who love that shit. So I learned a lot from that, not only like selling my art and like getting all the stuff ready like for that weekend to sell stuff, because we would do it every summer, one weekend. And basically like you learn that you have to be more than just the artist. Like I did more than just make the art, now I have to sell it. And that doesn't mean like being like the greasy car salesman in the sense of like you're pushing sales on people, because you don't want to do that, you really don't. But you definitely want to be up on your feet, smiling, saying hi to everybody who walks by, just talking to people, because your art can be really, really good, but people want to feel welcome and they want to feel like you're engaging and like you want them at your booth. And if you are looking down at your sketchbook or hiding behind your booth, nobody's gonna want to come up to your booth. I mean, it's gonna take a really bold and brave customer to still buy something from you if you don't kind of initiate like even just a hello. And so definitely, if I know artists are like introverted by nature, but you really kind of just have to like step outside of your comfort zone and just say hi to everybody who walks by. That can make a big difference, because that will get people to stop and just even say hi back. And even if they don't say hi back, because they won't always say hi back, that's okay. Just move on. It's fine. But it's just a really important feature. And one of the other things is that, you know, somebody can walk by your booth one time, see something, not buy it, and walk away, and that's fine. Because what, in my experience, people didn't like just come by my booth one time. They would kind of walk through the whole convention first, like really quickly, and then they would like come back one more time a little more slowly, maybe stop and like look around at my booth a little bit more, still not buy anything, maybe come back the third time or the fourth time or even the fifth time, like at 5:30 on Sunday, 30 minutes before the convention closed, and was finally like, all right, I'm gonna buy something. So you kind of like don't feel like discouraged if somebody doesn't buy something right away, because they could just be thinking about it. You know, there's a lot to see at comic conventions. It's very overwhelming. So it's okay if they don't buy something right away. They might buy something the next time. The important thing is just to continue being engaging. You know, even if it's just like, hey, I like your shirt. Hey, I like your cosplay. I like your earrings or your shoes or whatever that it is. You know, ask them like, hey, are you having fun at the convention? How's your weekend going? What kind of characters do you like? Just stuff like that. Like it's really that easy. I know it's harder to actually do it, but it doesn't have to be much. It can be pretty simple stuff. So that's one of my biggest things of advice, because it's really hard to make sales if you're not the one kind of initiating them, if you know what I mean, especially in this kind of environment where you're a vendor and people are walking into the convention not really knowing what they want or what they're looking for until maybe they see it. And maybe you saying hello will just be enough of the push that they need to buy something. Also, shout out to Lemia Crescent. I'm doing this thing again where I'm not drinking my tea in my video. I'm so bad about it. So the next thing that I want to talk about is my booth setup. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit more in detail and go into what sold well for me and what didn't. I feel like that might be helpful to you guys. So I'm going to insert a clip of me kind of doing a little walkthrough of my whole booth. Like I mentioned, going vertical as well as horizontal is really important, because it's more engaging. Having your prices visible is really important because some people don't really feel comfortable asking for prices, especially if they're afraid that they're not going to be able to afford it. Then they feel kind of embarrassed. So having your prices clearly marked is important. I had all the prices for my prints clearly marked. I had postcards for $1, Naruto trading cards for $2, small prints for $5, medium prints $7, and large prints $10. And all of my prints were buy two get one free. So that was clearly marked on a little price list that I had printed out and put into one of those clear stand-up frames that I got at the dollar store, just so that people could kind of easily see it. It's just, you know, a nice touch. And some people are still going to ask you what the prices are, so make sure you have them memorized. But that's just usually for verbal confirmation. Normally, like, they've already looked at the price list and they're just like wanting verbal confirmation that that is in fact the price. My small prints sold really well. They sold the best out of all of my prints. And that was, I think, because they were at eye level and they were really eye-catching. My larger prints and medium prints, which were behind me on that photography backdrop, didn't sell as well. And I don't know if that's because people felt like they were kind of like out of reach, like they were like off limits or something, but I did end up having a lot of my large prints left, which is fine because I'm going to continue selling them at my other conventions in the future. So totally okay. Because I, you know, prints will always sell, like they'll always sell pretty well. Then as far as like my accessories, which is kind of like a blanket statement that I had for my buttons and my stickers and my bottle cap jewelry, which included like keychains, magnets, and earrings, which I had on my little jewelry display. So buttons by far sold the best. They sold the best out of anything at the convention. And that was because I had a little promotion going on where if people subscribed to my YouTube channel from their smartphone, they actually got a button for free, which I think lured a lot of people in. And people like having something to take away from the booth. Because maybe they can't always afford something, especially like teenagers. Like a lot of the people that I appealed to were like teenage girls. That's just like the audience that my art appeals to, I suppose, which doesn't surprise me at all. But you know, they may only have $5 or $20 to spend at the whole convention. And so getting a button for free, I think, meant a lot to them. And I think it's just really important to kind of include everybody in your merchandise and kind of have every budget in mind. That does not mean undersell yourself. It just means, you know, maybe expand the items that you're selling to include less expensive items as well as more expensive items. So my buttons definitely sold well. They sold for $1 each or 6 for $5. And the awesome thing about buttons is that I press them myself at home with my button press. So I can make more whenever I want. And I can make them for pretty cheap. So I didn't really mind giving them away. Plus I gained like 50 something new subscribers, which was awesome. If you met me at Comic-Con, what's up? Hi. That's like unreal to me. That's like so cool. So that was a lot of fun. And the next thing that sold really well for me were surprisingly my originals, which I was not expecting. At one point during the convention, I had these two guys come up to me. They were friends, and one of them was a Harley Quinn fan, and the other one was a Batgirl and Nightwing fan. That's like a godsend. Like, I could not have wished for a more perfect scenario, right? So they ended up buying almost all of my Harley Quinn and Batgirl originals, which, like, there's a lot of, like, because that's like all I draw, right? So that was crazy to me. Like, they spent a lot of money at my booth. That was most of the sales that I made that weekend was from these two people, which was awesome. One of them's name is Chris, and I can't remember the other guy's name. I'm so sorry. But they were awesome, and I kind of made sure to throw in like free prints and buttons just because they were awesome customers. And that's like something that you can choose to do that's at your discretion. But I just felt like it was an awesome way just to kind of show my appreciation for these people who chose to support me and my art. And that was really cool. A couple of other bits of advice that I have for you guys would definitely be to sign up for a service that allows you to use debit cards or accept debit cards as a form of payment. I signed up for Square, and I think that that's just an important way to make sure that, you know, maybe somebody doesn't have cash, and so they'll be like, oh, I can't buy anything because I don't have cash, and you can say, but wait, I take cards. And that might prompt them to buy something from you. So it's a dangerous thing if you're the customer, but if you're the seller, it's wonderful. And also just make sure like to have some change on hand. My convention had somebody walking around with change to give to vendors, but I kind of just took the proactive route and went to my bank, which I work at, so that wasn't like a big deal. To just like go into my bank and get like $40 worth of change. Make sure you have tens, fives, lots of ones and quarters, especially if you're like me and you were selling items for $1 or $5. You're gonna have to move change, and it's just really convenient if you already have it, trust me. So pretty much the only other thing that I can think of to talk about in this video, because it's already been really long-winded, is just the kind of goals that I had for myself going into the convention, because I definitely set my expectations pretty low. Like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I didn't really know what the result of this was going to be. So as sort of a way to protect myself, I think I set my expectations low so that I knew they would be exceeded. But pretty much I told myself, as long as I make back the cost of the table, which was $150, $50 a day at a 3-day convention, I'll be happy. And the surreal part was that I made that back with one sale. I'm not saying that that's going to be everybody's case, but I think that I did that as a way just so that I wouldn't get discouraged from my first convention, and that I would definitely want to do more. And it worked. I've already signed up for my next convention. It's going to be in January, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a little bit of a bigger convention, and I'm going to have help at it. So that's going to be really, really great. I'm so excited about it. And I'm actually going to be cosplaying at this convention. I didn't cosplay at my convention this time, back in September, because I just didn't want to be uncomfortable. I mean, like I said, I was by myself, you know, and I was gonna have to be up and getting around and moving. And if I had to like go to the bathroom, I didn't want to have to be like working with a whole costume. So I didn't do it this time, but I think next time I'm going to try and cosplay as Robin and as Catwoman. Don't quote me on it, because that may be subject to change, but that's the plan as of right now. That's it. That's the end of the video. That's everything that I had to talk about. I'm really tired now. My throat is really, really dry. I still didn't drink any of the tea. I'm sorry, I tried. Okay, guys, so that's it for this video. If you have any questions at all regarding my experience, or if you want some advice with your experience going into your comic conventions, definitely comment down below. I will be happy to help you. I'm sure many other people will be happy to help you in the comments as well. If you have any advice for me, or just in general, definitely leave it down below, because that would be helpful. And that is pretty much it. I just want to give some shout outs to a couple of people really quickly, because they helped me a lot. So one of the people that helped me as far as giving me advice going into the convention was Lee Cabrall. He has a YouTube channel, and I believe he's going to start posting more videos. If he's not, then he definitely should, because he's awesome. But I'll link to his Instagram anyways, so you can check him out. The other artist is J Spill. You guys probably have seen their prints like in my house, because I have lots of their prints in my house. And they're really two awesome artists that helped me out a lot. Matt Noble, who is trying to start a YouTube channel, he interviewed me. I don't know if that's what I would call it, because I was like super nervous and I felt like I was really awkward. But he basically just did like a live stream like clip of me like and my booth. And so if that video's up, I'll try and link that down below, and I'll link his channel down below so that you guys can check it out. And shout out to Chris and Chris's friend, who I can't remember your name of, but you bought a lot of my prints at Comic-Con, and that was super rad. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you had a snack so that you didn't starve this whole time. I talk a lot. I'm sorry. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys Friday with my Artsy Fartsy Friday video for the week. And until then, guys, take care.